All right. We got it this time, folks. Getting ready to go live. Let me get my screen share going. Thanks for joining me for the Eat Well portion, part 2 of our Rebuild the Temple series. Let's see, screen share. Screen share. All right. There we are. We are ready to go. So we want to just kind of move forward from where we were at last time. Part 1, remember, was all about really identifying the beliefs that are driving our behaviors and ultimately giving us our results. And remember, where our beliefs oftentimes come from, unless we're consciously seeking out more and better information, it really just comes from mothers, fathers, teachers, preachers, media sources, governments, advertisements. So here we go. The number of diets out there. We talk about eat well. Everyone wants to talk about diets, and we've all tried some pretty crazy diets. I got a couple of funny cartoons here that we're gonna start off with, and the reality of it is that there's a lot of confusion around what are we supposed to eat, what's the diet that we want to stick. I remember growing up, my mom went through a phase where she did the cabbage soup diet. I love that cabbage soup too, by the way. I don't know, I'm calling me strange, but I really like that stuff. So we got that type of diet. You have the keto diet is a big one now, the big fad diet, keto diet. We also have now carnivore diet. We also have, let's see, what are some Mediterranean diet. We even have some really extreme diet cleanses, such as that maple syrup diet, master cleanser, which I've done a couple times, I must confess as well. But the reality of it is that there's a ton of information out here and it's confusing. So what I want to try to do today is really, create a better belief structure for you in regards to your diet, to nutrition, and helping to understand really the burden that our body's under, the stress burden that our body's under in the chemical realm. When we talk about the creation of health and how human beings are healthy, really what it comes down to is our ability to adapt to our environment and our ability to adapt more so to the stress that's in our environment. We have healthy stressors, we have unhealthy stressors, but really it comes in 3 main categories that we like to talk about. That's the eat well, or the chemical, the mental and emotional and spiritual. That would all be under one, the mental stress. And then, of course, physical. This workshop, of course, we're going to be talking more in terms of the chemical stress. Here's another cartoon. This one kind of hits the nail on the head there. You could probably search diets online and find 123,942 of them. So just thought that was kind of a funny way to start things off here. But remember, I hope that you all took the time last time to understand this beliefs triangle and work through it for yourself. And remember, a good way to do that is to start with the results over here. See what kind of result you're having, and then backtrack. What types of behaviors, what types of actions are you taking that are giving you that results? And then backtrack even further to understand, what is it that I have to be, what I have to believe in order to take the actions that I'm currently taking. And are those beliefs healthy or not, or are they unhealthy? Are they true or not, or are they untrue? And so that's the way that you can backtrack through this beliefs triangle and work on it. I keep bringing it up because it is that important. This is why folks start diets. They fall off. Maybe they do their little cheat meals, and the reality of it is that in the United States, it is extremely difficult to nail this down, and that is because we're just bombarded with options, and a lot of them are super tasty, super addicting, and not providing a whole lot of health support and nourishment to our bodies. So we talked about this, where the beliefs come from. So again, let's see what actions you're taking and kind of backtrack that. But I'm going to start off with some nutritional facts. These are kind of old ones, but I'm sure they still hold true. Children ages 1 to 2 had an excess calorie intake of 30%. So if you're having 30% more energy coming in than what's going out, then that can lead to some health issues. Our bodies work better in an energy debt situation, meaning we're taking in less calories than what we're burning. We have inborn mechanisms to help deal with that more so than the excess. But for every dollar spent by the Department of Agriculture on child nutrition and education, $10 is spent by companies, promoting the high fat, high sugar snacks. In 9 out of 10 schools, the food that's offered to our kids don't even meet the government's recommendations through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I'm going to show you in a couple of charts here, what that might mean, and more so, like, is the U.S. Department of Agriculture, is their recommendations even good to begin with, in terms of from a health standpoint? It's good for industry. I'll show you that too. But let's go. Now, one big thing that we see, this page is really just to help you maybe see that some of our belief structures and how they're off. For instance, with artificial sweeteners. First of all, before I get too deep into this, I just want to recognize, and I want you all to recognize how stinking tough human beings are. We're kind of tough animals to kill when it comes to food. I've used this example before in the past, but it just floors me that almost every time I go to Hy-Vee, I see an individual like this, someone that is extremely overweight. They're pushing a cart around, and in that cart is loaded with frozen pizzas and banquet dinners, and then their bottom rack on the cart is loaded up with cans of soda, and then on the top rail they have that the bottles, and they kind of split the bottles on the top rack so they can stack them all the way around the cart and have more room in the middle of the cart, right? You've all seen this before, stacked with say Diet Mountain Dew, things like that. And the beliefs that are leading into that, maybe with the Diet Mountain Dew, is they're trying to do something healthy for themselves, right? They don't want these extra calories. But there's been studies done that show that artificial sweeteners, especially when fed to rats, that the rats ate 3 times the they ate 3 times the calories after eating artificial sweeteners, than when they were actually fed real sugar. So imagine taking in 3 times the calories. That could lead to some issues, of course. And research found that when we are considering these types of factors, weight, diet, lifestyle differences, in that women drinking sugary sodas, they were 1.3 times more likely to develop diabetes. Now, diabetes is sort of towards end game in terms of metabolic dysfunction. But there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of issues that can take place before we hit that threshold where you could be diagnosed with diabetes if you're running higher blood sugars and if your insulin resistance is all out of whack. I have a whole slide dedicated to insulin resistance here. Dietary habits are primarily learned behaviors, and they can be changed or modified, but you have to change the belief. You cannot just, behavioral modification simply doesn't work. It doesn't work. You really have to establish healthier belief patterns in order for anything to stick long term. This is why we see the yo-yo diets, and we see people that are up in weight and down in weight and up in weight and down in weight. And hey, I'm the same way. It happens to me too. So it's something that we constantly have to bring consciousness to. So a little history on the government's involvement in diet here. The USDA used to promote, back prior to 1943, they had 8 basic food groups. And then they went to 7 basic food groups. And then in 1956, they switched to the 4 basic food groups. The 4 basic food groups is the first one I remember because I remember learning it in school. I remember learning it back in the 80s when I was going through, let's see, I would have been going through like first, second, third, fourth grade, that we had these 4 basic food groups. And then I remember when the food pyramid came out. If some of you guys are as old as me, 1992, the food pyramid. One thing I remember about that is that the way that they promoted the food pyramid was they called it basically the heart healthy diet. That was the 92 food pyramid. And then it went into the my pyramid in 2005, which is very similar, but instead of things kind of stacking on top of one another, there was more like wedges of the pyramid. And then the most recent one that I can find was My Plate was the newest one that had come out. But let's look at some of this stuff. I just find this fascinating when you look at cause and effect. I'm not saying that these government recommendations are causing everything, but that being said, there's definitely some correlation going on here, and the reality of it is that there is a lot of money spent on this type of information and propaganda to be put out to educate the people in our country. And so the BRFSS, this is, what's that stand for? Let me see here. We got the BFR. Let's see, I got it here somewhere. Is it the next tab over here? Let me get rid of this tab. It stands for, what's it stand for again? Oh shoot, I thought it would be right on this page. Oh, here we go. Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System. So that's what it stands for. Let's go. I don't want to ruin the show here. We're going to go back. Start it over. Okay, here we go. So basically what they started doing is they started tracking, obesity trends. It was one of the things that they tracked. And they started putting these these demographic charts together, these maps together in 1985. And what you're looking at here, the states that are in color, those are the states that were participating at the time in 1985. And you can see that the percentage of people obese, it can be either categorized as less than 10% or between 10 and 14% of the state is obese or obese or 30 pounds overweight, essentially, for a 5'4" person. And then we go to 1986. I'm just going to kind of buzz through some of these quick to see as some of these states are coming on board. And what I want you to see is just how the colors here are starting to change as data and information is coming in from these states. You can see how they're kind of flipping colors, but still we're left with those that are less than 10%, those that are 10 to 14%. And as we cruise 1989, 1990, we almost got everyone on board. And 1991, they had to create a new category because now we had states that were reporting 15 to 19% obesity ratings in their state. And then 1992, this is when we came out with the food pyramid. This is the heart healthy food pyramid. This was designed to help people understand what they were supposed to eat if they wanted to be healthy. Notice how this thing is stacked up. On the bottom, we have the breads, cereal grains, pastas group. So we wanted grains. We're supposed to have 6 to 11 servings of grains. And on top of that was vegetables. And then we had 2 to 3 servings of meat, poultry. We had dairy that was mixed in there. And then on the top was like the fats, oils, sweets, things like that. What happened when we started understanding this food pyramid and people started taking it on? We saw an explosion in people carrying more weight. So let's get going here. So 1993, we're just kind of getting this information out to folks. The schools are starting to teach it. And then in 1994, Colorado jumped on board. So now we got their information. So here, this is the first view of the complete map of the obesity trends. 1994, we finally got all states reporting on this. And you can notice that the 15 to 19% phase, that has there's a lot more states that have jumped on board with that level of obesity. And then we go 95, we can see that it's just going to turn blue more. 97, so in 97 it jumped up to above 20%. And then in 1998 we can see there's more jumping on with plus 20%. 1999, holy smokes, look at what happened there. By the way, heart disease throughout this time with this heart healthy diet, heart disease also skyrocketed. The level of heart disease skyrocketed as well. We're going back up here, go to 2000, 2001. Now we got a new category, which is greater than 25% of the population there. Going back on now, here we go, 2003, 2004. Ooh, wow, we got a big jump now. Now notice that there's nobody in this 10 to 14% range. There's nobody less than 10% anymore. Now we're all the 15 to 19 or 20, 20 plus. So we could see how rapidly we're starting to pack on this extra weight. The reason that I'm focusing on weight isn't because being overweight in of itself is like I got a problem with that. My problem is all of the metabolic issues and all of the health consequences that comes with being overweight. When we look at the amount of money that we're spending on disease processes that coincide or go along with obesity, we keep on trucking. Here we go, 2005, the USDA brings us a new food pyramid. Now notice the grains are still the largest slice, okay? And we have the vegetables, we have the fruits, we have a really skinny little thing for oils. Then we have dairy. Dairy is a pretty significant slice there. And then, meat is the second smallest, the meat and the high level proteins from animal meat. Now, when I look at this, I'm thinking, okay, like who paid them to come up with this? So we have, a lot of grains that we're pushing the most. So, the farm industry, I love farmers. I got families that are farmers, and they feed the world, and it's absolutely wonderful that they're doing so. And this is monocrop exploded throughout this time as well. And for those that don't understand what monocrop is, it's when you're trying to grow a basically one type of crop, and that's it. So there's not a lot of variety. That's kind of hard environmentally. It works very efficiently. You can grow a lot of calories, which is one of the benefits of it, but on the backside, you're really introducing a lot of chemicals in the environment. So look at this too. Oils are not a food group, but you need some for good health. Get your oils from fish and nuts. I like that. And then liquid oils such as corn oil, soybean oil, and canola oil. And what we understand now, what we're understanding more and more about these oils, which by the way, these seed oils prior to entering into our food system were really used more as like mechanical lubricants and things like that. And now they're in our diet. And the challenge with them is that they're highly processed, and they're omega-6 fats. Our bodies really don't break them down very efficiently without creating a ton of inflammation. And a lot of chronic disease is caused by inflammation, which is a big problem. And inflammation drives the stress response. And so, we see a lot of mental and emotional types of issues that can come from taking in too many of these oils, along with other things. There's never one smoking gun. There's plenty of smoking guns out there. So, but let's see what happened to the population from there. So now we got this new food pyramid that should change some things and improve them. But upon creating it, this might be too soon to blame directly on the pyramid, because it's got to get out in schools, it's got to get promoted, we've got to get that propaganda pushed to the public and educate them on how to eat healthy, right? So what's happened here is now we entered a new category, the plus 30% category, and we pop along through. We can just see how the states don't typically get healthier. We just see them getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And look at 2010 here, we have over 30% Look at all of them that are over 30% now. 2011. Sorry that this changed colors. The original maps that they put out went from 85 to 2010. That's when I found them. And then I had to go back in and we could find, they had maps for 2011. You have to catch them on an individual year and download them. That's how I did this. But you can see that as the color shifted, we have greater than 30% here, but then now we have 30 to 35%, and then we have over 35%, which there's none over 35% here, but there's only a few that are in that 20 to 25% range. So, we're still kind of sliding a bit here, Now, this was 2019. We could see one state. We got DC. I wouldn't consider DC a state, but DC and Colorado, we're in that 20 to 25% rate. Other than that, we're skyrocketing here. Look at all of them from 30 to 35%. Look at all of them that are higher than 35%. Mind-boggling. So then I went in. That's what I was showing you before. Let's see if I can do this without losing our spot. We're going to go to this map. This is 2021. This is right through the CDC's website here. But when we look at it now, we have a category from 36% to 40% obesity ranks, and look at how high that is. Colorado is still in that 24 to 30%, so they're even increasing. The point is that everybody's increasing. Look at this, 21. Florida said, nope, we're not giving you the information anymore. So anyway, that is just eye-opening to me, because the reason that's so eye-opening to me, let's go from current slide this time, is because a belief structure oftentimes in folks who are overweight in the obesity range, we tend to blame it on on family and in genetics, right? And I think that if you understand anything about genetics, you would understand that genetics do not change that fast. As fast as those charts were increasing, that's not a genetic issue. Okay. And by the way, there's different types of metabolisms people have. Not everybody's the same. Some people's bodies are really efficient at utilizing energy, which means that they are able to store more energy in the way of adipose tissue, fat cells. And, that in of itself is not unhealthy. In fact, if you have someone who tends to be really efficient with their energy and go into energy storage mode easier, they are the folks that tend to, live through famine easier than the people who can really just take in as many calories as they can eat and just kind of burn them all off. We all know folks like that too. So there is different types of metabolisms. I will recognize that, but I cannot sit here and recognize that genetics are the cause for the issues that we're currently having with the state of our health in the United States. Another sabotaging belief is, people tend to think that they can work off these calories in the gym. And in the reality of it is that your body composition in terms of the amount of fat storage, it's really more so what you're eating. Diet is the biggest factor. The chemical stress category is the biggest factor in weight loss and maintaining healthy weights. But there's other factors too. You could be doing everything right and just have a nervous system that's stressed out and not be sleeping, and you're going to have a hard time maintaining a healthy weight if you're just not getting good sleep. And you're going to have a hard time maintaining a healthy weight if you don't have good healthy muscle mass. Good lean muscle mass is important as well. But the other big sabotaging belief is eating a low-fat diet. That's what we need to do to lose weight. Why do we believe that eating a low-fat diet will help you lose weight? Because of the food pyramids. That's what the food pyramids were telling us. And you look at diets like keto, which are very effective in helping people lose weight. what is the primary calorie intake going to be in a keto diet? Fat. So we can see that that is just a debunked thought process, that eating a low fat diet is going to help you lose weight and create health. The other thing is you can maybe just eat less and you can lose weight. But if you're eating the wrong types of foods, and you're eating the types of foods that are going to screw up your metabolism and your body chemistry and your hormones, then it's very hard as well to lose weight. For the most part, you can look at calories taken in versus calories burnt, and most often, if you are burning more calories in a day than you're taking in, you're going to lose weight in most scenarios. Sometimes it doesn't work that way if there's a lot of hormonal imbalance. And then, we already kind of talked about sleep on the bottom side of that. So genetics are just really not to blame for our health problems. 99.99% of the folks out here, their genetics are designed for health. Okay, there are genetic disorders. Okay, but it's a very, 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 very small percentage. And what really sheds light on this, and I bring this up quite a bit, but the Human Genome Project, when they're trying to discover all the genes in the human body, they ended up discovering 70% less than what they were expecting. And the reason for that, the reason there was less of them, and they moving on in the genetic studies, they found that genes are actually more like a cookbook that make all sorts of different proteins. Genes are more like a cookbook. So one set of genes can affect a lot of different protein synthesis, a lot of jobs. So epigenetics simply says that our genes are going to our genetic expression is going to be more tied into our environmental stressors. Okay, so how are we adapting in our environment? So the environment plays a bigger role in gene expression than the genetic makeup itself. I hope that makes sense the way I laid that out. But the environment is the key player here. So let's talk a little bit about our current Western diet. Really, it's just set up to increase insulin resistance. We're creating a lot of increase in blood sugar, especially when we're eating a ton of grains. It's acidic. It's deficient in omega-3 fats. We need to have these healthy balance between the omega-6 and the omega-3s. And really, it's hard to find an omega-3 rich diet. The best way to do it is by eating healthy animal fat. So like your grass-fed, grass-grazed animals, okay, and fish. The problem is that we've polluted our waterways so much that now you got to worry about toxicity when you're eating a lot of fish. So you got to kind of keep some of that in balance. And then, of course, just the overwhelm of toxicity our body's dealing with. Our body's dealing with quite a toxic load on a regular basis, day in and day out, with all the flavor enhancers, artificial sweeteners. We already talked about like the manufactured fatty acids, the trans fats, saturated fats, sugars, pesticides, herbicides, now genetically modified foods that that are outlawed in a lot of other countries, but Americans are just like, yeah, go for it, you're good, just eat as many of those genetically modified foods as you can. And because it makes the farming side of things work way more efficiently. And the reality of it is that we're just not sure what that actually does to us in the long run. But what happens when you're insulin resistant? First of all, what insulin resistance is it's when the cells in your body don't like to communicate with insulin anymore. The insulin receptors are like not allowing insulin to do its job. That's insulin resistance. And the way that we get to insulin resistance is to have a lot of insulin in the bloodstream all the time. And the way to have a lot of insulin in the bloodstream all the time is to eat a lot of high glycemic index foods, or having a lot of these sugars in the system all the time. Insulin is often known as the hormone that transports sugar and allows sugar to be stored in the liver and in muscle tissues, and also allow, if there's an excess in sugar, insulin helps to create and store it as fat. Okay, so we store sugar as fat, so it has clearly a negative effect on the immune system. I had a, let's see, I don't think I have it up here, but if you have a blood sugar, if your blood sugar spikes, just say as much as it would spike from eating a saltine cracker, you're going to see like a 30% reduction in the immune system competency while that blood sugar is elevated. So that's a big one. The way that insulin moves magnesium around the body is also another big one. I think that this is probably the connection, one of the connections between how a poor diet that is higher in sugars that are creating insulin resistance that leads to some of the heart issues. Some of it also are, heart disease, cardiovascular events is because of this magnesium. Magnesium is utilized in the body to relax muscle and to help produce that intercellular energy. So the helps the body stay optimal, if you will. But if your insulin resistance is up, then your magnesium just isn't going to be able to get distributed into like the cell walls of the blood vessels, for instance. So they're going to stay constricted, which is going to cause increases in blood pressure, which is going to increase the workload on the heart. Insulin also mediates blood lipids, kind of moves around some of those blood lipids. Cholesterol, for instance, which is another transport hormone that kind of has a bad name. That there's good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. You don't want to be too high in this or that, and some of that information is also incomplete in our understanding, or just in the way that it's being utilized in healthcare. Increase in insulin also causes the cells to divide more, which is going to it's going to cause you to age more quickly. Insulin-like growth factors, so your IGFs from the liver, they work with other hormones to stimulate like bone growth and things like that. So if your insulin's not working as well, you're going to see more incidences of osteoporosis. It also affects thyroid, accelerates aging. I already explained how that works. Glycation. So if your body struggles getting that blood sugar out, getting that sugar out of your bloodstream, what can happen is that sugar glycates, which simply means it's kind of like turns a little sludgy, gets stuck in the joints, and can cause a lot of autoimmune diseases because your immune system will attack those areas that are being glycated. Insulin resistance is also a main driver to the stress response. So there's really not a whole body that isn't affected by insulin. If you could maintain insulin levels that are healthy, then those are the folks that tend to live the longest. They look at dietary habits of some of the oldest in our population, and what they find is that calorie restriction is a key player in longevity. And I believe that calorie restriction is a player in longevity because of the fact that if you're reducing your caloric load, then there's going to be less blood sugar. The insulin doesn't have to work as hard, and your hormones can do what they're supposed to do. We talked about this in the first workshop, but really we have to see the current state of our nation. Overall, we're at 41% obesity rate. So you saw the charts before, but 60% of Americans are overweight. I don't want to necessarily go through all these numbers again, but they're there for you to look at. So it's creating a sick society. We have a sick society due to the way that we're handling, or the way that we're incorporating physical, chemical, and emotional stress into our lifestyles. We consume over 55% of the world's drugs. We're about 5% of the population, and we're still getting sicker and sicker and sicker, which tells me that drugs are not the answer. Medications are not the answer. We spend more on healthcare than any other country. We spend over $12,000 per person per year on healthcare. That's over $11 billion a day, $4.1 trillion a year. And the way that we are currently trying to solve this problem, the people who are running the joint here, the folks in charge of the United States, there's a good majority of them that want to do like Medicare for all. And, that's going to help people. And sure, financially that could help, but you're also not going to help with a number of sickness. So if these numbers keep going up, it's simply not, we're not able to maintain that. Okay. You can't fix a health problem by finding a better way to pay for it. The only way that you can fix a health problem is by being less sick. That's it. And the only way that you can be less sick is to create more health in the body. So our kids, man, they're really taking it. We have a lot of developmental disorders, gallbladder issues, a lot of diseases, chronic diseases that we were only seeing in adults or now we're seeing in children. And these numbers, every time I look at them, they just go up and up and up and up. And this is why we focus so much on kids. This is our future. We can do better. We can be healthier. It's not that difficult, but it takes consciousness. We have to understand what's going on, and we have to put a little bit of thought into it. We can't take our health for granted necessarily. I mean, you can, but then you have to, pay the consequences of what happens when we live that way. So national healthcare spending in 2007, we were at 2.4 trillion, and current healthcare spending is at 4.1 trillion. How many years is that? That's 24 years. And that's not 24 years. Forget my math. That's 26 years. In 26 years, we almost doubled our healthcare costs. 26 years. So, I mean, if that happens again, we're really going to struggle on the resource side of things. Plus, people are going to be suffering more than necessary. Some people find that being on a diet, you got to suffer a little bit to be on a diet. Well, you have to also suffer a little bit if you're sick. So you just got to kind of choose your suffering. I don't think we can live on this planet without dealing with some of that discomfort and suffering. But anyway, so insurance companies get big into this, right? So salad isn't covered by my HMO. So I'm not going to do it. It's not covered by insurance, right? So imagine if we have government health care for all, there's not going to be enough money to give everybody the care that they need necessarily. So they're going to start like rationing what they're going to cover. And then, people aren't going to get the care that they need either, by the way. But anyway, so the crisis at hand really is that most of us look at our current healthcare system and we call it a healthcare system, when in reality it should be called a crisis intervention system, because that is what they're good at. Okay, medical science is amazing at keeping people alive long enough for their bodies to heal. Okay, but it never creates health on its own. Okay, it just buys us time. Okay, think of our current crisis care situation as being very important. Of course, it buys us time for us to get our bodies well. Okay, because that health is an inside job. When we look at this, we have to eat well, think well, and move well to be able to experience a healthy life and to really be well. And that's assuming that the internal communication of the body is on point. But really, we've got to look at our degree of health is equal to the degree of our cells functioning properly, where sickness is a lack of cell function. Okay, so picture this. I'm in this room. If I turned off all the lights, it'd be dark. Okay, so let's say that dark equals sickness. Okay, so what can you do to actually treat the dark to make it not dark? Like, what can you actually do to make it not dark? There's really only one thing that you can do to make it not dark, and that's to introduce light. So think of light as being health. Okay, you turn the light switch on, then this room is completely filled with health or light, right? And then all the darkness disappears, right? You can hang out in the shadows a little bit, but you put light up into them shadows and make it disappear too. You cannot treat, you can't treat the darkness. You can't treat the darkness. You have to create the light. Okay, does that make sense? So in your body, you have to create health in order to get rid of sickness. It's really the only way to do it. Otherwise, you're just playing a game where you're trying to cover up symptoms and you're trying to be more comfortable. And as you get more comfortable, your body gets sicker. That's why when you start taking medications, we can see that one medication tends to lead to another medication, which tends to lead to another medication until you become, an older person, let's say Medicare aged individuals, and you're taking on average 11 medications a day. It's just simply not a path to health. It's a path that a lot of people take. You can live a fairly long life doing that, but what are you able to do? So it really comes down to what are your beliefs, what are your goals, what do you want to be doing? But you have to understand that the only way to get rid of sickness and disease is to become super healthy. Okay, that's the only way to do it. And that's what we look at when we're looking for nutrition. We look at the eat well. So the goals of wellness nutrition, the goal here is to create a nutritional sufficiency and purity. Okay, because nutritional deficiency and toxicity are the cause really of illness and lack of health. Deficiency and toxicity in all different categories: eat well, move well, think well. In all three stress categories, deficiency and toxicity create sickness, okay, or decrease health, which allows sickness to be there, right? Or allows disease to be there. The goal of wellness nutrition is to provide the body with the raw materials required for the genes to express themselves in a healthy way, not only to really avoid disease, but so that you can live life the way that you want to. Freedom is it's a high value for me and my family. And we decided long ago that you cannot have freedom if you don't have health. If you're reliant on medication, if you're reliant on those doctor visits, you can't truly be free. So this old adage, we've heard it, you are what you eat. I've heard that since I was a kid. And it's kind of true, but the reality of it is that you are not what you can eat. You are what your body can do with what you eat. So eating high fat diets, high fat, high sugar, high chemical diets lead to sickness. But it's possible to move the other direction. So another big thing, I put dairy on here, and most people look at dairy as being a health food. I mean, it's been one of our food groups. It's been one of our food groups for as long as I can remember. It was one of the 4 food groups, I believe. It's definitely in the food pyramids. The reality of it is that dairy isn't really a health food. Okay, dairy does not make your bones stronger. We think that it makes us stronger because it's high in calcium, but the challenge of it is that it also increases acidity in our body that causes your body to release minerals to try to buffer that acid up into a healthy range, that acidic level into a healthy range. So it's not the best if you're trying to fight osteoporosis. It's not that you need more milk. Okay. Now, I like dairy. Our family likes dairy. We incorporate dairy into our diet. We don't look at it as a staple, as a standard, as a health food that we need to take every day. If you get good quality dairy, you can get good healthy fats, you can get good healthy proteins, you can get good healthy sugars. So when you look at the makeup of dairy, it's fine, um, but it's not a health food and it's not necessary. We don't need it. Okay. Dairy is absolutely better than some of the other things we eat. You know, we have kids that I would much rather pour them a glass of milk than have them eat other options that they have out there. Anyway, so the four basic food groups. We're looking at a macronutrient profile. So the macronutrients are your carbs, your proteins, your fats. In the fitness world, you know, everyone that talks about their macros. This is what they're talking about. Their macros, right? What percentage of calories are coming from either proteins, fats, or carbs, right? That's what we look at. We should be getting our carbohydrates really from fruits and vegetables, and it can make up 25 to 40% of the diet. Some people, you know, with the different metabolic types that are out there, some people do well with more fruits and vegetables. Some people don't do well with vegetables. And then if you're actually trying to heal the body from certain diseases like autoimmune types of issues, sometimes fruits and vegetables can create problems. But I don't want to get too far in the weeds with that. But when we look at this, you know, those are the types of carbohydrates we should be getting instead of the carbohydrates that we're currently getting, which make up, you know, about 55% of our diet from processed grains, sugar, corn syrups, things like that. Proteins, we can get them from vegetables. We can get them from where we should get them. But we're looking at the comparison in the numbers, I should say, in the black, the fruits, vegetables at 25 to 40%, the grass-fed, lean, wild meats, games from 20 to 35%. What we're doing here is we're comparing more of a healthy, innate diet that's based more historically on what our Paleolithical ancestors ate, more of an ancestral diet. That's what we should go to because our ancestors did not have chronic diseases, especially when you go way back prior to the agricultural revolution. So we have, they didn't have as much life expectancy, but it wasn't because of disease. It was because they would break their leg and get an infection and die, or they'd get diarrhea and not have good clean water to drink, and they would die, or they would they would just get old and be unable to travel with their people, and they would end up starving and dying. They would maybe they'd have some complications at birth, and so kids, children were dying younger, and things like that. But it has nothing to do. I mean, they didn't have disease. They didn't have disease, I guess, is the point that I'm getting to. Now, the fats came from organic meats and fish and vegetables and nuts, and that should be 30 to 45% of our calories. I think that a lot of people are toxic in the wrong kind of fats and deficient in the healthy types of fats. Every single one of our cell walls in our body is a lipoprotein. That means it's fat and protein. And the cell wall is what allows information and nutrition in and out of the cell through the cell wall. It's got to go through the cell wall. And if you got unhealthy cell walls, then that's not good. But most of the fats that we're getting now are from grain-fed meats and dairy and trans fats and seed oils and things of that nature. So, well, if we compare the vitamins that we were getting, the micronutrient profile, we can just see how deficient we are now in the most common vitamins. You look left to right. You look at the minerals, okay? We're deficient in everything except for sodium. Sodium, we're really toxic in more of the unhealthy sodiums. These are a lot of times the flavor enhancers, your MSGs and your hydrolyzed proteins, and they create flavor. That salt creates flavor, right? I'm not against salt. you use like Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt on your food, and it can actually help with blood pressure. It can help with hormone regulation if you're getting good quality, healthy salts in there. But look at this one, fiber. Holy buckets. Where do we have all of our digestive issues now? Why does our country have so many digestive issues? This could be part of the problem. We're getting about 7 times less fiber a day than what our Paleolithical ancestors were getting. Due to the way that our diets are set up. By the way, I could have done this entire workshop in 5 minutes. I could have, but I'm trying to enter in on the belief system. I could have simply said, okay, folks, here's what you do. You eat healthy fruits, vegetables, you eat healthy meat, so grain-fed or grass-fed meat as often as possible, wild fish as often as possible, and don't worry about the fat. Eat the fat too. We need the fat. We can have, you can have olive oils, you can have coconut oils, use coconut oil, cook in high temperatures. You can use olive oil. Those types of fats are healthy. Avocado oil from eating avocados and things like that, and beef up some of that fat content. It could have been as simple as that. Eat real food. Stay away from processed. Stay away from processed stuff. That could have been the entire workshop. But right now we do have some supplements that really are required, just due to the deficiencies that we have. Supplements that I take commonly are the omega-3 fats and fish oils. I buy grass-fed beef, and I'm not afraid to eat the fat in that because it's from a healthier animal, and they can make those longer chain fatty acids so that my body doesn't have to work so hard as to do that. But omega-3 fats from fish oil will help bring that balance in between the omega-6 and the omega-3s. I'm not saying omega-6 fats are bad either, by the way. Our bodies absolutely need omega-6 fats, but the reality of it is that we have high ratios of omega-6, low ratios of omega-3. We need to bring that more into balance. So are we really that deficient in omega-3, or are we just that toxic in omega-6? I'm not sure, but we have to supplement that to try to keep it more in balance. Probiotics, our gut health and our immune health and our nervous system health and our hormone health, a lot of it, the bacteria in our gut is where we get some of that stuff from. So like serotonin, for instance, we think of serotonin as being the secreted hormone in our brain that kind of uplifts our mood, right? In fact, people who are dealing with depression, anxiety, their most commonly prescribed drug for that are the SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which means that it blocks your body's ability to take that serotonin out of the bloodstream so that more of it's just kind of sitting up there for your brain to utilize. The reality of it is that most of that serotonin is actually produced by our gut, not by our brain. Okay. And it's the probiotics, it's the bacteria in our gut that create that serotonin. We have multivitamins, multiminerals. We're deficient in those. So the best way to get them is from whole food sources. But you can't simply eat 5 times the amount of carrots, because if you're doing that, you would spend all your day eating. You couldn't eat enough of it because of the way that our vitamins and minerals are reduced in our foods due to the soils and the way that they're grown. So we got to figure out a way to get those. The best sources are really from whole foods. So like juicing things, and sometimes you can get the like dehydrated capsules and things like that. Vitamin D is necessary only when the sunshine's not available. So that's something that we can take orally. We can take vitamin D. Vitamin D3 is what we want there. Otherwise, sunshine. I saw a study that showed that folks who get adequate sunshine to the degree that they have healthy levels of vitamin D versus those who don't, the difference in health between these individuals is very similarly drastic as it is between like non-smokers and smokers, for instance. So, just eating a innate diet will give you what you need otherwise. So let's talk a little bit about like organic or not, local or not. Here's the difference. Organic is more sustainable long term because we don't have to rely on the chemical industry to feed the plant, because what we're doing is we're creating healthy soil. So that's really the big difference. Is we're really trying to allow that soil to be as healthy as possible when we're doing organic farming, which means that we're not spraying the pesticides, herbicides, insecticides on there, and a lot of the chemical load that goes with that. Whereas conventionally grown plants, they're really just looking at trying to feed the plant. Okay, so they're just spraying the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the other chemicals that are necessary to allow that plant to grow. And really after like World War II, this is when this really exploded, because that's when we figured out a very easy way to get nitrogen out of petroleum types of products, and like potash and things like that. And so we figured out ways to free up this nitrogen and use it. But if that went away, I think we saw it a little bit when the Ukraine got into the war, and so between like Ukraine and Russia, we get a lot of our fertilizers from there. So I know farmers felt it in their checkbook when all that started up, and the shortage of fertilizers, which increases price and things like that. It's just simply not sustainable. We're getting rid of all of our topsoil, which is not so good. So that's a reason why you would want to shift into more of the organic side of things, let alone all of the pesticides, herbicides, all those things, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, all the sides chemicals. Those are designed to kill biological life. Okay, either you're killing bugs or you're killing weeds, or so it not so good to put a whole bunch of that into your system. But what I would say is you want to go local. You want to go local as much as possible. God bless the people down at the farmers market, right? When you grow it local, you can see how they're growing things. Some people are organic, some people are not when they're going local. But the reality of it is that you're getting more vine ripened fruits and vegetables, whereas if like you're getting, let's say you're getting your apples from South America, right? They got to pick them super early so that they don't rot, right? If you get stuff local, look at how fast it degrades, right? So it's gonna get moldy. It's gonna kind of turns a little quicker. But a lot of the nutrition that's in those fruits and vegetables, especially fruits that are ripened on the vine, those last stages of ripening is really where all the good stuff happens. So also, we reduce some of these greenhouse gases because you don't have to ship food from other parts of the world, or you don't have to ship as much of it. So, we should really buy local, I think, to not only support the local economy, but really because the food tastes better and it's more nutritious. So here's some information on what's available out there for that. But let's talk a little bit more about different lifestyle aids that really help us with nutrition. Regular exercise. It aids in cardiovascular health, sure, in excess calories, but it also helps that smooth muscle in the digestive system, which the digestive system works. Peristalsis works by it stretches and contracts. It's got to stretch and then contract. That's how things move through our system. So exercise does that. Also, there's newer research out there that shows that people who exercise regularly are actually, the bacteria that's in our gut that we need there, that there's actually more bacterial cells in a healthy individual's gut than they have cells of their own in their entire body. Think about that for a second. But those bacteria love exercise. Okay. So that helps us produce those happy, healthy hormones. Proper hydration to allow proper function of the health and cellular transfer, right? That's how things get around. We need to have plenty of hydration. Allow time for your food to digest. Now, one thing that I learned more recently, especially when it comes to fasting, is that really we should fast for 2 to 3 hours before bed. It's going to help us get a deeper, better sleep because our digestive system isn't going to be working. When we're sleeping, you want as few functions in the body to have to work as necessary, because that's when the body does a lot of its healing, is when we're sleeping. So if you have issues with sleeping, then look at what time of day you're eating. My wife and I both just experienced this. We were on a trip in Chicago and we went to a steakhouse, and we got in kind of late. So by the time we ate, it was kind of late. And then we went back to the room and we went to bed less than an hour after we just ate a whole bunch of food from a steakhouse, and both of us had terrible sleep that night. And normally, we sleep very, very good. So, I mean, it does show up. Keep that into consideration. Maintaining proper posture and nervous system balance through exercise and regular chiropractic adjustments when necessary is key. I want to show you this right here. So when we talked about you are what your body can do with what you eat, check this out. In the Journal of Manipulative Therapy, they found that that improved remission of pathology in ulcers. So ulcers heal better with basically, I don't want to say that word. I don't like manipulation, but that's how they printed it. Spinal manipulation. So an adjustment to the T9 to T12 area, which is down the middle of the back between the shoulder blades and just a little bit lower than that. They saw that the adjustment performed significantly better than drug therapy. Gastroenterologists found that 72% of patients with abdominal pain, irritable bowel syndrome, and heartburn had subluxations of the spine in the areas that supply nerves to the abdomen. This is a Scandinavian Journal of Gastroenterology in 1990. So again, the nerve component to it. The subluxation, by the way, that's what we adjust. That's what Dr. and Jenny and I are looking for when you come in, is we're looking for areas of subluxation. And subluxation occurs when the body is unable to fully adapt, or when it, not necessarily fully adapt, but when the body becomes overwhelmed by a stress load. And if that stress load is coming from a chronically deficient and toxic diet, then we can find subluxations in these areas commonly. And then another study, this is a smaller one, 79 adolescents suffering from duodenal and gastric ulcers. They found pattern blockage of the basically the nerves in the middle back. Again, were also found. So what causes what? The reality of it is, a lot of times it's more of the chemical stress causes the subluxation. But the problem is that when the subluxation's there, then the neural patterns, the way that the nervous system behaves, is not optimal. And that communication is not optimal. Picture this. It's defense. It's the way your body works. Imagine if you drink, like, let's just say a soda. We're going to go with like a Mountain Dew. And you look at the amount of sugar that's in a Mountain Dew. It's over a cup. It's like over a cup of sugar. So pour a cup of sugar in a bag and look at it, right? Or dilute a cup of sugar in water. You have that much sugar. And let's say you just immediately shoot that into like a vein, for instance. Let's say you're just shooting straight sugar in there. What would happen to you? The body, when it's digesting that, it doesn't enter, it tries to slow down the way that's entering the bloodstream. And one of the ways that it can do that is by creating a subluxation. that slows down the release of blood sugar, or the creation of blood sugar, right? So that's kind of the connection of how it goes. Now, when you correct the subluxation and you restore that nerve balance, and if that stressor is no longer there, then the body's going to start healing again. So this is just a couple of examples between the connection between the nervous system and digestive health. But I know that was a lot, and the reality, my purpose of doing this and providing the information in the manner that I did, again, is to help you just bring consciousness to this area of your life, because there is a better way. You know, there's just too many people who are sick. There's too many people who are unhappy. There's too many people with mental and emotional issues. There's too many people with antidepressant. There's too many people taking SSRIs, which makes me sad, because, you know, life is good. Life should be good. We need to make life good for ourselves and for our communities, so that we can thrive and you know, be well. So if you have any questions about this, just know that, you know, Dr. Jenny and I, we're here for you. We have a lot of information on these topics. I know that on a daily visit, you know, we don't share all of it, but that's why we spend the time to put these workshops out there to help you educate. But we're here for you. We're here to support you, and really, that's all we want in the end, is to help you build a healthier, stronger you, so that you can turn the light on in your body and get rid of the darkness, get rid of that disease, that dis-ease, when your body is no longer in that state of ease and function, and try to restore you back to the healthy self that you were designed to be. So everybody, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you later. Let's see, how do we